We're here today to celebrate and also reflect, to reminiscence and also to envision Africa's history, Africa's dispersed children across the globe, their contributions to world civilization and global history. The United Nations saw it fit to set this year aside for all peoples around the world, for all countries and nations to recognize not only the contributions of peoples of African descent to world stock of knowledge, to human civilization, but also to highlight the struggles, the excruciating pain, the losses, the tragedies that the peoples of African descent have suffered over the past 300 years. Today, we are here to bear witness to the enduring fortitude, the enduring power, staying power of the peoples of African descent. I want to say as a preamble to today's event that I'm going to quote three great African sons of the continent and the diaspora, the African diaspora. The first quotation is from Bob Marley, who said how great it would be for God, before God and man, for Africa to unite. And then Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, also noted that no matter where you live, you are an African and belong to the African nation. He also said on Ghana's Independence Day on the 6th of March 1957 that the independence of Ghana was meaningless unless it was linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. I want to say that in the same token, the emancipation of peoples of African descent from slavery is meaningless unless it's linked up with the emancipation of all peoples of African descent everywhere, including continental Africans. The last person I want to quote is Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "We are tied together in a cloth of mutuality, in a destiny of mutuality, and that whatever happens in Johannesburg affects, albeit indirectly, whatever happens in Birmingham." So that these three quotations go to demonstrate the need for all of us, people of African descent, dispersed across the global landscape, to come together to work towards our emancipation.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My brief speech, I've been asked to speak for 50 minutes, so I'm going to be brief. My brief speech will touch on celebrating a year of dedicated to people of African descent, as well as Africa-Canada Community Development Foundation. Let me start with the celebrating Africa dedicated, a year dedicated to Africa, or people of African descent. Keynote speaker, Director of Outreach, I suppose, by me, Mr. Lon Mayon Court, former President of Multicultural Society of BC, Mazi Dr. Godwin Emi, the president of Kwantlen Polytechnic University, Dr. John McHenry, the executive director of Collège d'Éducation, Yvonne Labège, the honorable guest speaker, Reverend Dr. Augustine Obinwuma, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished special guests, the youth, ladies and gentlemen. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Nevi Pillay, this International Year offers a unique opportunity to redouble our efforts to fight against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance that affect people of African descent everywhere. People of African descent are acknowledged by the Durban Declaration and Program of Action as a specific victim group who continue to suffer racial discrimination as the historic legacy of the transatlantic slave trade. Even Afro-descendants who are not directly descended from slaves face the racism and racial discrimination that still persists today, generations after the slave trade ended. Africa-Canada Community Development Foundation shall join other communities worldwide to celebrate this declaration every year. At the 10th anniversary of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action's General Assembly, which held on the 22nd September 2011, our success was not left to go cold with the approaching winter of 2010. On the 26th of February 2011, the Foundation organized its first general meeting / Black History Month celebration. It attracted a lot of Canadian youth, including university students from Kwantlen, UBC, SFU, and Langara, to mention but a few. The celebration of the International Year dedicated to people of African descent by the United Nations and the inauguration of the ACCDF presently mark a transition from mid-term goal to our long-term goal. Our long-term goal is to build a center which we shall call Africa Cultural Center.
Thank you very, very much. It's really great to be here. I got here when there were fewer people in the room. I'm really glad everybody arrived. It's very nice to see you here. Before I begin, I want to make note and honor the First Peoples from British Columbia, on whose traditional territory we are. First, the Kwantlen, which of course is where the name of this university comes from. The Semiahmoo, the Katzie, which are in New Westminster, the Tawasin, and the Musqueam. I do that as a standard, to recognize out of respect our First Peoples. But I think it's particularly important when we talk in a multicultural sense that we recognize that almost all of us are immigrants. Almost all of us have come to Canada from somewhere else. And so it is very, very wonderful to be with my fellow immigrants. I'm here on behalf of the Honorable Harry Bloy. Harry is the Minister of Multiculturalism for British Columbia. He's a great guy, and he had a family thing that came up today, so he asked me to come. But I know that Harry would be very pleased to say to you how wonderful it is to have the invitation to come here. Also, have spoken with our Premier, and she extends her great best wishes for you tonight, and with the projects that you have outlined for us today, that Councillor Martin and I look like we've got some work to do tomorrow on. And so I just wanted to start with that. In British Columbia, we have about 40,000 people come and become citizens or become part of our community every year. And they come from all different types of communities. They come from the South Asian community, which is one of the largest single groups, certainly in Surrey, but also through the Lower Mainland, from the Chinese community, and of course from the Caribbean and from Africa and from many, many other nations. And we really think, as Councillor Martin said, that the strength of our city, Surrey, is the diversity. It's also the strength of our province. We have learned so much from other cultures and from other peoples about life, and we get to appreciate their experience very, very much on a regular basis. Immigration is very important to British Columbia because we have lots of land and we need lots of people. And there's a lot of opportunity here in British Columbia. And so we welcome that community, or those communities here, with as many open arms as we possibly can. As a matter of fact, just 2 days ago, the Premier announced that she would have an immigration policy team that would be working on how we can do a better job with the provincial nominee program, which is one that brings many people to British Columbia, but also our refugee programs and our regular immigrants, folks that have decided to be here for whatever other reasons other than because they're fleeing a country or a famine or what have you. They play a very important role in our society, and we continue to work really hard with other governments, communities like your own, and the service providers that welcome people to this community and hope that we can work together to make it a safe community. Congratulations on the work that you are doing here. I want to thank you very, very much once again for the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure to get to know this community. When I came in tonight, I met a gentleman by the name of Vinegar, and Vinegar was talking to me about a man that ran for City Council in New Westminster in the last election. He didn't win, but he was a gentleman that had a vision of creating a cultural center for people of African descent in the Lower Mainland. And that clearly is something that you wish to accomplish as well. I wish you the very best on it. I pledge my support and our government's support to help you find a way to accomplish that. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone, and it is an honor and a pleasure for me to be here on behalf of Surrey Council and on behalf of Mayor Diane Watts to pay a tribute to the Africar Canada Community Development Foundation and the United Nations designation of the 2011 as a celebration of people of African descent. Mayor Watts is unable to join us this evening, but she's asked that I extend her best wishes to everyone and her gratitude to the ACCDF. The City of Surrey is one of the most diverse municipalities in the country. The city aims to create a community that is both welcoming and inclusive for all people through respecting and valuing individual differences and embracing these layers of diversity as valued. On behalf of Mayor Watts and the City Surrey Council, I'd like to thank the Africar Canada Community Development Foundation for their contributions to our community. The Africar Canada Community Development Foundation's mission is to build a unified community, strengthen diversity, and support immigrants and others in need. The City of Surrey shares this mission and has also been very proactive in achieving these objectives. In the City of Surrey, our diversity is our strength.
I would like now to acknowledge the presence of some members of the diplomatic corps. Some of them will be joining us very soon, but we already have in our midst Mrs. Wilma King Bennett, the Honorary Consul of the Republic of Jamaica. Please stand to be acknowledged.
My name is Scruffmouth. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I'll try and transport you to some realms that are relevant to the experience of peoples of African descent. I had the opportunity to visit Ghana, West Africa this year, and I learned a lot of things. I learned that when storytellers are about to share their work, there's often a call and response involved. So when I say once upon a time, can you please say time, time?
Okay.
Once upon a time. In the beginning is the dance. And the dance is with God, and the dance is God. And God glows red as he drops some legs into gold mines, synthesizing lush vegetation on the green planet down below, growing up into the sunshine. And with respect to the goddess Earth Mother Queen, one black star is placed in between this cosmic color scheme.
Thank you to all those who have put this night together. I really don't know how to thank you. I have no doubt that all members of our African and Caribbean community are very, very grateful for all the work, for all the efforts that you have put to make this night a reality. Not long ago, I had this wonderful opportunity to go to one Indian reservation close to Hope to celebrate Mass for this community. And when I arrived, there was nobody around the church. So I decided to stroll around for a moment. And behold, these two little kids came forward. And when they saw me, can you imagine, in a small native reservation with a black man early in the morning. These kids have never seen a black person before in their life. So they saw me walking around and they stood still and were gazing at me, looking at me. And I didn't move. I stared at them. After a while, the youngest of them, about 7 years old, he spoke up. He looked at me and he said to me, "Hey, how come you're brown?" And I said to him, "That's how God made me." He said, "Wow. Have you seen God?" I said, "Yes." And look, he said, "Cool. Awesome." So the older brother turned to me and said, "Do you mean you have seen God?" I said, but our priest in the church told us that nobody has ever seen God. I said, "Well, I've seen God when he was creating me." And gradually the kids started coming closer and closer and closer. And the older one came closer. And he thought he saw my skin. He felt it a little bit. Huh? And the other one wanted to feel my hair. So, but listen to this. While they were doing this, the little one noticed my palm. And he asked me, "How come God didn't paint this?" How come he didn't paint that? Then I said, "Well, because when God was painting me, I was praying. So God forgot to paint my palms. So the little kids were so excited about this story. They ran, Mom, Dad, come and see. I have seen somebody who has seen God, and he's brown. So today, I was asked to speak a little bit about African immigration and its social impact to the Canadian culture. There is a saying that if you don't know where you're coming from, it is difficult to know where you're going. Let us look a little bit to the history of immigration of people of African descent to Canada. Before we start doing that, I just want to make a remark. Recently, when I was going through this, I am not a professional historian, and I am not a sociologist. I'm a theologian. So I'm not talking here as a professional historian or a sociologist. I'm not trying to analyze the societal impact of our immigration to Canada, but just trying to give you a brief summary of what I have gathered in the history of immigration of people of African descent to Canada. In going through this, I discovered that there is a central controversy when it comes to terminologies. How do you generally describe all the people of African descent? You know, some people have tried to describe it, some sociologists call us African Canadians.
Just before I begin, I'd like to thank the lovely ladies in the back who supplied us with food. My stomach is full and it was delicious, so I'd like to give them a round of applause for that lovely food they provided us. Secondly, Charles mentioned a little thing about him having hair and wearing a white suit. I have seen this picture. It does exist. So believe me when I say he did have hair at one time. So my name is Andrew Suitner. And I'm here to present our group's innovative idea to help children in Ghana and hopefully around the world. And as the group will demonstrate, they have all been charging via these solar panels today. Of course, when the sun goes out, that is.
Let's see.
They will be able to take these with them to class as they are fairly portable. And one thing you'll notice as you're looking at them is that they are protected. So that's one thing we kept in mind as we built them, is that they could be damaged one longevity for these things. So they were installed on these pieces of wood, and the panels themselves are protected by sheet plexiglass.
In the future, what they intend to do is go to Ghana or to any African country and build this thing there, help students in rural communities build this so they will learn how to do it for themselves.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The existence of ACCDF has been successful thanks to a group of people. A very small group of people who come together every Saturday practically to rub minds and suggest ways to move forward. And these people, I must name them one by one, and if they're still breathing and they are with us here, they will rise, and then you'll be kind enough to give each one of them a round of applause. Let me start with the Master of Ceremony, who you've been seeing since all evening, and his name is Dr. Charles Adade, Quist-Adade. Mr. West Samuel. Mr. West Samuel, I must say, until recently was the president of BOCOCA. BOCOCA is a big umbrella for all Caribbean associations, and it's under ACCDF, so you can feel his weight when he moves in to attend meetings. Then we have Mr. Paul Choisir. Mr. Paul Choisir is a saxophonist, but we made him a saxophonist recently. It was an error, a typo error, but became a style. He is an extremely talented saxophonist, and we've seen that while some francophones, anglophones, he plays saxophone. On the telephone. The next person will be Mrs. Clementine Iwe, who has been coordinating the programs of the foundation. Next is Ms. Amra Jaman. Amra Jaman, are you around? Well, Amra Jaman is a very, very dynamic lady who has been carrying the association very, very strongly. She came in only recently, and she has managed to make a mark. So if she's not around, I thank her all the same. Then the last but not the least is Mustafa Lassan. Mustafa. Mustafa's contributions have been extremely remarkable in the sense that he comes in, he makes his points, and very dynamic points, to the point, not out of the point, and then they're usually very useful. Mazi, thank you very much. It's always very important for us to recognize the presence of an elder. Your gray hair, you earned it. And thank you so very much. Monsieur Yvon, merci d'être venu. Et merci encore pour le geste que je n'oublierai jamais. Merci encore.